So a few months ago, I was sitting with a high school junior who's feeling just completely overwhelmed. AP classes, sports pressure from parents and their friends. You got to pick a major, you got to pick a college, and through all that, I'm there to give guidance. My question was this: what kind of, in the midst of all that, when you think about your future, when you think about you, if you can put aside career, if you can put aside major, which college, what kind of person do you want to become? And she looked at me like, she didn't know what color the wind was. Like, she just never thought about it. She only knew what other people wanted from her. And right there, that pause, that discomfort, that's the moment that most kids live in. And on top of that, they're trying to make pretty significant decisions about the direction and discernment for their lives. What I've learned through the last 12 years of running U School, most kids are chasing and following expectations without knowing who they are trying to be. They're just following the track. And when a kid doesn't know who they want to become, they're much more susceptible, much more vulnerable to becoming what everyone else wants them to become, or their perception of what everyone else wants to become. And that's not good. Kids today are flooded, kids have always been, but especially now, are flooded with outside messages about who they should be. Get these grades, look this way, always be high performing, always be productive, always be impressive. And without a clear internal vision, they start copying what they see, because that's obviously where you get value. That's how you get popular. That's how you get praised, rather than what feels right or real for them. That's where this idea of mimetic theory comes in. Professor at Stanford, Rene Girard, came up with this concept decades ago, this idea of mimetic desire, that the way we grow into pursuing goals, pursuing things that matter to us, is not by looking within, but it's by looking without. It's by watching other people and copying, essentially, mime, mimicry. Kids are watching everyone, especially if they're on social media and online. If they're in school, if they're in sports, they have influencers, they have classmates, they have peers, they have professionals, they have people that are their age that are already famous and making millions of dollars per year just by being themselves. And if they're not careful, they could end up chasing other people's dreams and living lives that never quite feel like their own. Here's kind of the main point of this episode. Without a vision for who your kid wants to become, your kid is a sitting duck for someone else's idea of a good life, of success. So mimetic theory would say we don't just want things because inherently we're drawn to them. What we want is what others model as desirable. We look at someone else who all of a sudden has those shoes or that dance move on TikTok or that career or those many followers and likes, and your kid wants the same thing. Maybe they decide they see the one that's very athletic, so they want to be more athletic. They see the person who can do those dance moves. They see someone who can get into and is wearing that particular college sweatshirt, and they start thinking, well, maybe I should go there. Now, how do you develop through this in a more healthy way? This is where the concept of mimetic theory is really helpful, but in addition to that, self-determination theory. And this idea that in order for someone to grow and develop in a healthy way, they need three things. They need competence. They need to have a sense that they matter. They have a sense that they have something to contribute. Relatedness, which is community and belonging, and people that know them and people that they feel like they matter to and have value towards. And then, specifically for this episode, they need autonomy. Autonomy is that sense, not necessarily freedom or independence, but it's that they're the author of their own lives. And that's what's most fragile. When kids are mimicking others, they are losing autonomy. They're not developing it. And when autonomy is gone, so is motivation, self-worth, and certainly long-term resilience towards all the stuff that matters in life. So this question, what kind of person do you want to become, is one of the critical questions that we want kids to be able to wrestle with and answer when they're teenagers. I want you to have this as part of your vision for success as a parent. Because asking the question gives them autonomy. It actually puts them back in the driver's seat. So imagine your kid at 17 years old or 22 years old who can say, I want to be someone who's honest. I want to be someone who shows up when it matters. I want to be someone who works hard and makes people feel safe around me. Now imagine them facing decisions in the midst of peer pressure or dating or college choices or job interviews. Now they're not just reacting and trying to blend in or try to mirror back what they're seeing from others. They're choosing with intention. Doesn't mean they have all the answers, but they do have a compass, which is what this question does for them. This question gives them a vision, not just a plan. That's not what kids don't just need plans of here's the next step. They need a vision of who they're becoming. So practical takeaways. Well, first start asking the question, but do it when there's no pressure. When you're on a walk, when you're driving in the car, at bedtime, when there's actual moment of connection with your kids. So when you think about the future, and then normalize them not knowing. But don't, with all these critical questions, don't just ask once. That's the mistake. Ask once, it doesn't go well, so you never bring it up again. No, they need to be prompted this question over and over and over again. Listen without correcting. Even if they say something vague or what you might think is ridiculous, treat it like a clue rather than the final answer. Final answer? No, it's not the final answer. It's one answer on the midst of finding clarity. Reflect back what you hear. It sounds like you care about being loyal. Is it loyal? And they say, no, it's not being loyal. It's being like someone who fights for others. And oh, And then finally, model your own answer. That's the punchline of every one of these questions. That's really the punchline of U School. If you want to see your kids become successful, ready for building meaningful lives, it's like math. You have to read. It has to come from somewhere. They have to see you model it for them. I think this question can change the trajectory of a kid's life, can help them pause and sit back and find clarity. Because when your kid knows who they want to become, they stop drifting, they stop performing, they start building something real that matters. So tonight, just ask, what kind of person do you want to become? And then be quiet, let them think, and let them start figuring out what their answer is. If you like what you're hearing, subscribe to the YouTube channel or wherever you like to get your audio podcasts. We have lots of resources on the website, theuschool.com, and the blog, and dozens now of previous podcast episodes intended to help you, parent or a teacher or coach, have what you need to give kids what they need to build meaningful lives. We'll see you soon.